The question is, how do we facilitate that result? Is there a way to give a structure for people to liberate themselves? And is there a manner in which we can change the society in which we live? In other words, I'll give you the example of my own children. I have 2 sons, and they've gone to standard high schools. Now, my elder son has graduated. My younger son is now finishing his high school, and I've noticed that he's learning more and focusing more when he's at home, learning alone on a personal level from his teacher over an internet link than he ever did in the classroom when he was continuously, let's say, diverted by other things around him. Other people, his friends, the looking out the window. Now, for the first time ever, I'm seeing this younger son actually focusing on personally learning. And I'm wondering, is there a way that we can propose to implement a greater personalization, not just of relationships, but a personalization of education, a personalization of participation in politics, and a personalization that transcends the locality in which one lives, so that we can develop, let's say, personal relationships with somebody living in China?
Oh, I love your questions. I really do. It's not every day that the one is so lucky to have such intelligent question. And yes,
thank you.
Not only
pleasure to be asking them. Pleasure to be asking the questions of somebody who can answer them. It's not good to have only the questions and no answers.
No. I mean, I don't have truths, but I have a scientific, proven answer that work if there is the political will to, actualize what we know, and it's not from today. For example, already in the 18th century, several pedagogists, John Dewey, for example, very famous philosopher, had said that all in a phrase. The problem with school is that there are too many teachers and too few facilitators of learners. We need to facilitate what is already there in our kids, in our future leaders and citizens, to learn from experience, to develop their natural critical thinking, and not only to listen top down from the expert to the people that have to learn it by rote, but by experience, and learn from their heart, like teaching empathy, teaching respect. And not only respect for people like us, but also for different people, but not only for people, for the living things. And also teaching ethics in the school, value. Let me just say that I really like your question, because I'm involved, this year I've been speaking 4 times at the United Nations, and I'm part of this intergovernmental parliamentary association, a non-profit, because our goal is to promote with all the parliaments of the 5 continents law that will change the education, and in ways that, for example, at every mandatory level of education, teach what? Ethics. We teach conflict prevention and resolution, the culture of peace, which is, how to live in peace with ourselves, others, and the world. I've been talking, and it's encouraging to see the response, the Council of Europe, various centers, even in Capitol Hill, but there is an enormous amount. We have as a World Academy of Art and Science that is composed of 700 scientists and had among its founder Albert Einstein, that said another so important thing that we have to learn. We cannot fix the problem with the same theories and idea that have created them. So we have another
big... This is perhaps one of the most interesting aspects of this situation. The problem that we face is of our own creation. And unless we modify the manner in which we're creating things, we are only making the problem worse. So the question is, how do we achieve a consensus on the manner in which we should modify the process of creation?
Yes. And of course, I don't have a panacea, and it's not immediately, but I would sum it up by waking up, measuring things by seeing how everything is interconnected, and seeing that the national or world gross product blinds us. It's not any parameter that is giving us any meaningful sense. There is the triple of the quadruple bottom lines that only accurately measure also to produce wealth, how much human and natural capital you destroy. So the cost benefit is much more accurate. We have to change education and at every level create a new way of seeing and so behavior. Understanding from elementary school to PhD that everything is interconnected. And so if you are a doctor, health is not about not having illness. Health about, as the World Academy, another founder of the World Academy was the Trishram, a psychiatrist from Canada that proposed already in 46 the vision, the health is a full state of physical and mental well-being and social welfare. So with having a vision,
in fact what we describe this as the classical man, the man who was not just let's say pigeonholed in one function. And I guess that what you're suggesting here is that the over-compartmentalization of human life, where a man who is a physicist knows nothing about growing food, and a man who knows how to grow food doesn't know how to start his car, and so on, is a mistake. Because what we're doing is we are throwing away the capacities of an individual to capitalize, in other words, capitalism, to capitalize on the most profitable aspects of the use of that human being. And perhaps what we need to do then is to focus on creating what's called in America the Renaissance man. The Renaissance man is a man who could be a scientist, an engineer, a musician, an artist, a worker, an athlete, and a thinker all in one. And perhaps, could you say that perhaps this crisis is helping us to move in that direction?
Potentially a big yes. And for example, you asked me about politicians and leaders in general. By the way, media people are important stakeholder in the social construction of reality. They have enormous potentiality for good. So we need leaders, and we single citizens should ask and elect leaders that are not just interested to lead with followers that are enthusiastic, because being a leader doesn't say automatically that something good is coming out. Also, Adolf Hitler and Mussolini Stalin had a great leadership capacity. See the delirium that they provoke and the enormous damage. So we need leaders that are people-centered, community-centered, culture-centered, and more than anything, we need the generative leaders that are more interested in their narcissism and self-aggrandization are interested to promote the growth of natural leaders at the grassroots level, leaders that are emerging from a process of empowerment and creation of one great human capital, which is trust, respect, understanding. This would create, with the biopsychosocial vision, the possibility of having sustainable relationship where we cannot continue to build economic and monetary richness, as we call it, and making every more poor. Let me just add, even people in the United States, where I lived many, many years, first as a student and then as a professor, but it's the same in other countries as well, appalled that their people, about 10%, I'm not wrong, that own more property and more wealth than the 90% of the restant population. And this is the country of freedom and opportunity.
It's even more extreme. It's even more extreme than that. This percentage of who owns more than the rest is now has now fallen into the single digits. I'd like to make a comparison.
Can I say just something to finish my thoughts? Thank you. And I say, okay, you are a billionaire, you are a trillionaire, and you made your money. Not everybody did it that way, of course. I'm not saying that everybody's rich is guilty, but often you made a lot of money exploiting people and national capital. Well, now you have a lot of money, more money than you can use in 20 lives. And how you gonna live? You're gonna still breathe the poisonous air. You're still gonna have to contribute to have always the paranoia that somebody is gonna steal your wealth, that the thugs are gonna, rob you. And so, from my own experience, I had actually a very decent person that from time to time invited me and some of my friends to Las Gaviotas, just a little bit in Mexico, out of California, where he lived in a very expensive and beautiful resort with private beach, jacuzzi in the plaza, wonderful house with swimming pool. Well, it was so sad because to go there in this beautiful, rich oasis, we had to traverse Tijuana and see from the greenery of California to the brown without water of Tijuana, crime-ridden. And before entering this property, we had to pass guarded walls too, with people with machine guns. So everybody there was already, sorry that to see this great, really incongruency. Another one, me and my wife, where I travel all over the world for work, invited to go to a big conference in India. And we were glad that the organizer put us in a very nice hotel. We were glad that we opened our room. It was a wonderful room, very comfortable. And so we took the tent of the room out, and we saw poor people, pigs eating the garbage, and immediately we felt very sorry that we were, insensitive, being happy for our privilege in a dystopian world. So not even if you are privileged, you can really enjoy, or you can anesthetize yourself and become totally crazy.